Hi, everybody. It's Miss Amy, and I am back with Chapter 2 of Lynn Reed's Bank, The Return of the Indian. I've missed a couple days, boys and girls, and I am so sorry, but I went out of town for a few days, but I'm back now. So thank you for being patient with me. And just remember that and the illustrations are by William Geldart in this book. Just remember, boys and girls, Miss Amy doesn't own the rights to this book. She just owns the book, and she's glad she gets to share it with you. So in chapter 1, we learned that Omri had moved and Patrick had moved, and they're not really around each other anymore. And Omri wasn't having a really good time where he lives now. He was being bullied. And boys and girls, bullying is bad. Bad is bullying. Bad is bullying. Bullying is bad. And be sure not to be a bully. And don't let anybody bully you either. Just say no to bullying. Miss Amy's getting comfortable. I'm so sorry. So that's what happened. Oh, and then somehow Omri and Patrick ended up around each other. And Omri was talking about how he missed Little Bear and Boone, and Patrick acted like he was nuts. He didn't even know what he was talking about. So we're going to go ahead and go into chapter 2, which is called A Victory. Omri entered the house by the side door, which opened into the kitchen. His black and white cat, Kitsa, was sitting on the drain board, which means probably where your parents, if they wash the dishes, or if you wash dishes in your sink and you put it in the little stand next to it to dry it, that's what a drain board is. She watched him out of her knowing green eyes as he came to get a drink of water. Meow. "You're not supposed to be up there, Kits," he said. "You know that." She continued to stare at him and flick some water on her, but she ignored it. He laughed and stroked her head. He was crazy about her. He loved her independence and disobedience. Disobedience is no bueno. I guess in a cat it's okay. Maybe. I don't know. As an adult, I don't think I'd like that. He helped himself to a hunk of bread, butter, and prumella cheese and walked through into the breakfast room. I'm not sure I know what prumella cheese is. I'm going to assume it's some kind of spread. I'm going to have to look that one up later. It was their every meal room, actually. Omri sat down and opened the paper to the cartoon, which would be where our comic section would be. Kitsa came in and jumped, not onto his knee, but onto the table where she lay down on the newspaper right over the bit he was looking at. She was always doing this. She couldn't bear to see people reading. "Well, that's no good. Miss Amy loves reading. She wants you boys and girls to read. She wants you to go buy this book and read this book. Reading is good for your mind and good for your imagination." But apparently the cat didn't feel that way. Omri felt tired. It had been a long day. He laid his head on his arm, bringing it level with Kitsa's face, and communed with her eyeball to eyeball. He felt sleepy and cat-like when his mother came bursting in. It gave him a fright. "Oh, Mom! I wish you wouldn't bash around like that." Remember, Omri's British. That's why he said Mum. "Omri!" He looked at her. She had a strange look on her face. Her eyes and mouth were wide open, and she was staring at him as if she'd never seen him before. He sat up straight, his heart beating. "What's up?" "A letter came for you," she said in an odd voice, to match her Google-eyed expression. Google-eyed. "A letter? For me? Who from?" I'm afraid I opened it." She came over to him and gave him a long envelope. torn open at the top. It had printed on it, as well as his name and address in typing. Omri started at it. It said, Telecom, your communications services, or your communications service. He felt numb inside. It couldn't be. It couldn't be. He didn't touch the letter, which lay on the table beside Kitsa. For once, his mother didn't even seem to notice that she was there. Normally, she chased her off. Must be talking about the cat. Why did you open it? Omri asked at last in a croaky voice. Darling, because I didn't look at the name. You boys don't get many letters. She gave a short, rather hysterical laugh. Omri quite saw how it could happen. He just wished. He wished he could have been the first to know. Well, go on. Read it. He picked up the envelope and took out the letter. Dear Omri, we are delighted to inform you that your story, The Plastic Indian, has won first prize for your age group in our telecom creative writing competition. We think it is a superb story showing extraordinary powers of imagination and invention. Our judges consider it worthy of publication. Your prize, £300, will be presented to you at a party we are giving for all prize winners on November 25th in the Savoy Hotel. A special invitation card will be sent to you. May we congratulate you on your success. Yours sincerely, Squiggle Squiggle, competition director for Telecom. Apparently he couldn't read the signature. Omri kept his eyes on this letter long after he had finished reading it. Inside, he was jumping up from his chair, running around and around the room, hugging his mother, shouting with triumph. But in reality, he just sat there, staring at the letter, a deep glow like hot coals in his chest, too happy and astonished to move or speak. He didn't even notice that his free hand was stroking Kitsa from nose tip to tail, again and again, while she lay on the paper, purring with bliss. His mother woke him from his trance. Darling, do you realize? Isn't it fantastic? And you never said a single word. At this moment, his father came in from outdoors. I got a crazy hair just sticking straight up there, don't I, boys and girls? Okay, I put it down. He'd been working in the garden, as he often did, until it was actually too dark to see. Now he stamped the mud off his shoes in an open doorway. But for once, Omri's mother didn't care about the mud and fairly dragged him into the room. Oh, do come and hear the news. I've been bursting to tell you all day. Omri, tell him! Tell him! Wordlessly, Omri handed his father the letter. There was a silence. Then his father breathed reverently. Good heavens, £300? Doesn't say that, it says something else, but Miss Amy doesn't use the Lord's name in that way. It's not the money, cried his mother. Look! Look what they say about his story. He must be brilliant, and we never even knew he had writing talent. She came to Omri and smothered him with hugs. When can we read it? Oh, just wait till the boys hear about this. His brothers? Yes, that would almost be the sweetest thing of all. They always believed as if he were too thick to do anything. Too thick means not very smart. So he's saying that his brothers always thought him not to be very intelligent and didn't think he was very smart and could do anything. and telling them at school. His English teacher simply wouldn't believe her senses. Perhaps Mr. Johnson, the headmaster, would get him up at assembly and announce the news, and they would all applaud, and he would be asked to read the story aloud. Omri's head began to spin with incredible excitement of it. He jumped up. Now, wait a minute. I think the headmaster in The Indian in the Cupboard was Mr. Johnson. Maybe Omri didn't move from the school district. Maybe just Patrick moved from the school district. Or if I don't know. I'm confused. Anyways, moving on. I'll go and get my copy and you can read it, he said. Oh, did you keep a copy? Yes, that was in the rules. He stopped in the doorway and turned. I typed it on your typewriter when you were out, he confessed. Did you indeed? That must have been the time I found all the keys jumbled together. But she wasn't a bit annoyed. And I borrowed paper and carbon paper from Dad's desk and a big envelope to send it in. His mother and father looked at each other. They were both absolutely beaming with pride, as they had been when Gillian had come home and announced he'd broken a swim record at school, and when Adil had passed 10 O-level exams. Omri, looking at them, knew suddenly that he had never expected them to have that look because of him. Oh, Omri doesn't have a very good self-esteem, does he? Well, said his father very solemnly, now you can pay me back. That will be 11.5 pence you owe me. His face broke into a great soppy grin. Omri raced upstairs. His heart was pounding. He'd won! He actually won! He'd never dared to hope he would. Of course, he dreamed a bit. After all, he had tried his very best, and it was a great story to begin with. Imagination and invention, eh? That was all they knew. The real work was in the way he'd written it and rewritten it and checked the spelling until just for once he could be confident that every word was right. He'd gotten Adil to help him with that part, without telling him, of course, what it actually was, or what it was actually for. Stirrup? Maize? Iroquois? Iroquois? Adil had exclaimed. It's the name of an Indian tribe, said Omri. Fancy not knowing that. Omri had now read so many books about American Indians that he'd forgotten that not everyone was as knowledgeable on the subject as himself. Well, I haven't a clue how to spell it. Irokw? No, it's not. It's like French. Never mind. I know that one. I just wanted to see if you did whiskey. Adil spelt it and then asked, what on earth is this you're writing? What a weird bunch of words. It's a story. I've got to get it as good as I can. But what's it about? Let me see it, said Adil, making a grab at the notebook. Omri dodged. Leave off. I'll show you when it's finished. Now bandage. Adil spelt this. Actually, Omri had it right. And then Omri hesitated before saying, cupboard. Adil's eyes narrowed. You're not telling about the time I hid your so-called secret cupboard after you nicked my football shorts. I didn't. The time the key got lost and you made such an idiotic uproar, you're not going to put me into any stupid school story. I'm changing the name, said Omri. You'd better. Any more words? Omri read on silently in the next longest word. Magnanimous. Wow, said Adil with heavy sarcasm. Bet you don't even know what it means. Yes, I do. Generous. Where'd you get it from? The Iroquois were a tribe ferocious in war, stalwart in alliance, Monogamous in victory, quoted Omri. You sound like Winston Churchill, said Adil, but there was a trace of admiration in his voice this time. Winston Churchill was once the Prime Minister to the Queen of England in England. He was like the head honcho under her in the government. Pretty much the Prime Minister tells him what to do, and the Queen just goes along with it. From what I understand. I'm not sure. I could be very wrong. I mean, the Queen has a say-so, but I think the Prime Minister's like the head of, she's in charge, but he's like the head of, he does all the policies and stuff, and of course discusses it and gets approval and whatnot. Lets the Queen know what they're doing. Yeah. Anyways, I could be totally wrong about that, but that's what I understand. Don't make it too show-offy, will you? You'll only lose marks if your teacher thinks you've copied it. I haven't written that, you jerk, said Omri. I'm just remembering what I've read in a book. He was beginning to relish long words, though. Later, he went through his story yet again to make sure he hadn't used too many. His teacher was forever saying, keep it simple, stick to what you know. Little would anyone guess how closely he had stuck to the truth this time. And now, imagination and invention. He paused on the stairs. Had he cheated? It was supposed to be a made-up story. It said so in the rules. Or had it? Creative writing meant that, didn't it? You couldn't create something that had really happened. All you could do was find the best way of writing it down. Of course, he had to make up bits of it. Vivid as his memories of Little Baron Boone were, he couldn't remember every word they ever spoke. Omri frowned. He didn't feel entirely easy in his mind, but on the other hand, nobody had helped him. The way he'd written the story was all his own. Maybe it was okay. There wasn't much he could do about it anyhow. He continued more slowly up the stairs to his own room at the very top of the house. And that is the end of chapter 2. Now, boys and girls, don't take my word on Winston Churchill and the Queen. I am not from England, so that's just my best understanding. The Queen is overall in charge of the government. Winston and the Prime Ministers there just help her rule the country. Anyways, back to the story. Omri, who has a very low confidence, took a chance and believed in himself and wrote that wonderful story. Now, he's sitting here pondering if he had cheated because it really did happen to him and it's supposed to be a creative story. But let's just face it. If somebody came and told you, oh, I stuck my Barbie and Ken in a medicine cabinet and they came alive, would you believe it? No. So it looks made up, that's for sure. But what I really like to point out is that he did not give up and he tried anyways, even though he didn't believe he could win. And look, he won. Isn't that amazing, boys and girls? Don't ever believe you can't do something, because it's just so might happen that you might be the best at doing it. But thank you, boys and girls, so much for reading Chapter 2 of The Indian in the Cupboard by Lynn Reed Banks with Miss Amy. And I look forward to reading it again with you tomorrow. And if you're watching this before bedtime, good night and sleep tight.